I presented on weather predictions for farmers and ranchers, mainly not the weather for the next week, but weather for the next season, for the next year. With the drought affecting so many parts of the country, everybody wants to know what's likely to happen this year with the drought, whether it's going to go away or get worse. My main point with the presentation was that there's no way we're going to be able to know for sure on seasonal forecasting, no matter how good technology gets. I talked about some of the things that cause the weather to tend to be dry or wet, mainly sea surface temperature patterns in the Atlantic and Pacific. People have generally heard about El Nino and La Nina and how they affect the weather on a year-to-year basis. There's similar things going on a multi-decade scale that right now are predisposing the south central and southeastern United States to having dry weather. And that's a large part of the cause of the drought right now. The northern plains drought is more likely to be temporary because it doesn't have those factors lined up against it. But in the south central southeast, we've been in a dry pattern for the past 15 years or so, and best we can tell, it's likely to continue for another 10 or 15 years before it reverses itself. The current drought is on top of having extended period of gradually increasing rainfall from Texas through the Great Lakes and Northeast. So Northeast United States and the Great Lakes region tends to be fairly drought immune. They don't have a lot of influence from sea surface temperatures also. Also, the Pacific Northwest tends to do well when the southern United States is doing poorly and vice versa. So Oregon and Washington have been fairly wet this winter. Fortunately, it's really hard to actually have drought hit the entire United States because the jet streams got to go someplace. The storms have to hit some part of the country, and usually some places are wet when others are dry. It's quite unusual what we have right now with most of the country being in drought, and so I don't think that can last for too long. All of the weather comes from the sun, and sun heating the earth in different extents in different places. Tropics get most of the sunlight, and so that's where the warmest temperatures are. That's where the thunderstorms like to form, where the warmest ocean temperatures are located, and that sucks air in, and air rises and thunderstorms spreads out, and that's happening on a fairly large scale, so it's affecting the global temperature and wind patterns. With El Nino and La Nina, that's affecting where those thunderstorms are in the Pacific, whether they're going to be way out in the West Pacific, close to Asia, or out in the East Pacific, close to the United States. As it turns out, the farther west they are, with say a La Nina, the drier the winter tends to be all across the southern United States. And it's not just us, it's affecting other parts of the globe as well. With an El Nino, the pattern's reversed. We tend to be wet in the southern U.S. and dry in parts of the northern United States. But it all comes from the basic wind patterns being set up by where the water is warmest and where the air is producing thunderstorms. The terminology originally came from the fact that El Nino occurred around Christmas time, and so El Nino is Spanish for the Christ child. But as we learn how important it is to the weather, El Nino is the EL in El Nino basically stands for extra liquid. We get more rainfall in the southern United States. Conversely, La Nina, the opposite, the LA stands for less agua. So La Nina is dry for the south, El Nino is wet for the south. In the Pacific Northwest, it's just the opposite, but that works pretty well for where I'm from.